Oh my gosh, Imperfectly Beautiful bunch. And welcome to episode number 2, How to Lock Down Success and Happiness During Lockdown. Yeah! So today, again, joined by the incredible hosts of today's show. We have in my left corner, Mr. Pierre. Hello, Pierre.
Remember you.
Hello, everyone.
To my down in the south, we have Mr. Seb Williams. Hello, Seb.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
And to the corner over there, we have Mr. Bryan. Hello, Mr.
people.
Party people. Hello, everybody. I don't know why I'm lost for words a little bit, but I guess I'm very excited that the gang's back together for episode number 2. So if you guys are excited as well, comment below and say excited whilst we are going to do our checks just to make sure that everything is working properly. But today, as the title says, we're going to talk about lockdown, and more specifically about how to lock down happiness and success during lockdown. Because let us know in the comments how the lockdown or the lockdowns have been for you. Oh yes, this is working. How it has been for you. Because what we're going to dive into today is how we are experiencing lockdown and how we would like to share some of our insights or the things that we like to do on, what do you do on the lockdown? This is what we do, and how you can actually turn it into a beneficial thing. Because many people, obviously, all around the world are experiencing it in a different way, but we would like to see how we can help to make it imperfectly beautiful. Because even though the situation might not be perfect, we can still make it imperfectly beautiful. And that's why it's such a beautiful topic on the show today. And I would like to thank my dad for proposing this topic. So love you, Dad. And also, before we dive into it, my hair is too long. Huh?
Just shave it, Graham. That's what I did.
Oh yeah, now I get it. Lockdown, no hairdressers. Yeah, got you now. I was being a little bit slow, but that's okay. Before we dive into anything else, I see that we have a very phenomenal person on the call today. So we have the amazing Aggie. Hello, Aggie. How you doing? I just wanted to say how happy we all are to have heard the news today that you have made the goal of your fundraiser, and that a wonderful, incredible Mr. J has been so kind to even buy tickets for you and the accommodation, and that you are on your way to Mexico. And it just overjoyed, like how do you say, it fills us with joy, or we're overjoyed. Yes,
we're overjoyed.
We're overjoyed with this blessing of news. So Aggie, we love you. You got this. Everything's gonna be okay. And let's send some love. Everybody send some love to our sister, Aggie, because we really, really, really love you so much. Mwah! Now, on that note, let's get started. Let's dive into the matter. And let's do this very seriously. We have a very serious matter to discuss. Don't you guys think so? And Bryan, we can do this. Like, very serious matter.
Yeah.
All right, let's dive into it actually. So let's just let's just talk about it. Lockdown. What does it bring up in your brains when you hear lockdown? What's the first word that comes up in your mind when you hear lockdown?
Surprise.
Surprise?
Surprise.
Yeah. I know, right? More surprised, like at the length. Like it's been nearly a whole year, right? I'm just like, that's like a whole year.
Yeah.
Whole new world. Sorry.
It is
a whole new world.
Oh my gosh.
That is very true, actually.
It is.
So
what was your word? Yeah.
I think I didn't have one, and I think that kind of speaks for itself in a way. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, the going in and out of it, the uncertainty of what's happening and all that. It puts everyone in a weird spot, and whether you're there now or it's like you're more comfortable with the situation now than you were like a year ago, a few months ago or whatever, I think we've all had it where it's impacted our lives massively, whether we like it or not. And how we come to terms with that, is kind of defines how we live the situation, right? So
it touches our reality.
Yeah.
All right. Well, they say this, don't they? They say that life is more about how you respond to it than what actually happens. Like it's what you do in response to the situation, the circumstances that you find yourself in.
That's actually interesting as well. Yeah. It just made me think of this thing, like how it's so different. But what gives us the expectation that things would ever be the same? That's actually like something that just came up, which is actually really weird as well. Because I certainly have a very elaborate word for down. Or maybe not even a word, but when he said that, I was like, yeah, interesting.
What would your word be, Chip?
My word would be like something like, like that. So it's not really a word, it's more like an expression.
Wow.
But on the other hand, I'm very positive about it. Even though my comes from a total different area, which maybe we touch upon today, which has more to do with the freedom of people and, like what it's doing to our lives. And Simba agrees with me. but that's for another phase of this conversation. What about you, Bryan? What's your word? As I'm quickly party.
I would say initially hearing lockdown, I think suppression. Just because before the pandemic and everything, I always equated that to prison in a sense. Like someone was, locked up or locked down. I always thought of that, where you lose your freedoms, more or less. So that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I think that kind of is in the direction of my.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not a real word, because it does something to our freedom, which we can obviously take on in a positive way, because we're only ever locked if we let ourselves be locked. And if we understand that we have freedom of our mind, freedom of our spirit, and even freedom of our actions, then we can turn it around into something positive, which is obviously what today's episode is about. But I do have some adjective thoughts about this topic in the direction that Bryan was talking about as well. But let me just quickly check. We have some comments coming in as well. So Graham says, I believe it has made and will make everyone appreciate many more things that when we come out of lockdown, just kidding. And less taking things for granted. That is very true. Okay, let me just grab him for a second. Are you guys able to see the comments as well?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, could you guys read one or two out?
Sure.
I just want to quickly say about what Graham said. That makes you appreciate things, even during lockdown, not just when we're out of lockdown, whenever that will be. But even right at the beginning when things are happening, one thing that I noticed, and I think a lot of people noticed, was you could hear nature so much more clearly. And I don't know if you guys noticed that, but being in London, it was something that I noticed massively, where I am, there's always cars passing by, and yeah, instead there was no cars, but birds chirping all the time, and I found that really nice. So that was kind of I'd open up my window, and instead of hearing the cars and the beeping and the sirens from the ambulances and the police cars and everything like that, it would just be nature sounds. So it was another time to connect to nature, because I would often go to the park and stuff because we're allowed out to go for our 1 hour exercise or whatever. But yeah, just reconnecting to nature, that was a big thing that I came to really appreciate again.
That is true as well. Also, I don't know if they were mentioning this somewhere that is significant, that everything has become greener, or that more that actually had an effect as well on how things were more restored into balance because it's no longer heavily populated by human activity, and therefore that it actually has a positive effect on, like you say, nature and wildlife. I don't know, things around us that sometimes like we as humans dominate very, very much.
Yeah,
That is
I've seen that also, that certain species of animals are returning to certain places where they were in history, and smog levels are going down. So the visibility from the city areas or surrounding areas are much greater. It's, I think it's foreshadowing, how it should be.
yeah. There's something to say for that, because that is a positive effect for sure. Though the question then remains is that how can we make something like that sustainable, and how can it actually be done in another way rather than having to lock people up, kind of thing, to achieve that? Because if you compare that to also on top of that, and what has always been around, like mass media, industries that you guys know what I'm talking about, that are not as beneficial, and that all contribute to the making things so much more chaotic, and that then drives the extinct of species or the not so good stuff for nature. Whereas if we were educated properly, or we were like in a more sustainable way, that the promotion of bad things would go away and the promotion of good things, and us living like like airbenders or something like that, something cool, then we could reach the same things, but in a much more happy way, in a much more positive way. Because one of the things that obviously, I don't know if you guys have heard about it too, that has happened or that has been very prominent, is just because of the lack of human interaction, it has caused a lot of deaths in that sense as well, or it has caused a lot of hardship with, for instance, elderly people, or things along those sides. What are your thoughts about that?
I'm just reading a comment that Graham put, which he could certainly, when we see and are able to hold each other again, it will feel so much more real when we come out of
Exactly.
and that is a big thing, right? Like the physical contact that we all need, and just our communities and stuff. And like, sure, it's nice we're able to connect on Zoom and stuff like this and see each other. It's good, but it's not the same as having, like, feeling the energy that people share and things like that. And yeah, exactly. But the physical intimacy, whether that's like romantic or platonic or anything like that, like, that's super important to our well-being. And through this, like, that's been taken away from us. And I think a lot of times some people are quite deprived of that physical kind of affection anyway. So taking away the physical contact, even just communicating face to face and sharing that interaction, is like has been so damaging to a lot of people's mental health. So that would be a really good thing to be able to come out and start going back to something more healthy.
Yeah, definitely. I think so too. And I think that's in part, I think, where Bryan and my relation were like, or Bryan was more like it is a form of taking away what the rights that we have. And I'm not like at all knowledgeable in like human rights and stuff, but there were certain things that were put forward by big influencers, people like JP Sears, talking about that. Actually, it's like a very thin line between whether or not this is even allowed, or things like this are even allowed in a situation as there is right now. Because obviously, in certain, like, let's say if there were Fire Nation attack.
You've been watching too much Avatar.
OMG. But say if something like that was to happen, or aliens would come, or anything like that, then there are certain measures that need to be taken in order for our government to protect its people. But when there's something like this, and sometimes it's or at least a little bit questionable, to keep it all nice and neat, to like what is really our freedom. But that's why we are here today, to give our perspective on how we can change things around, and how, especially those people who will be watching this or who are watching this right now, that are experiencing any of the things that we've already touched upon, or any other variation thereof. What are things that they can do? What are things that you guys are doing in order to make this actually a moment of, how do you say, recharge, or a moment of reset, where you are working on something that is going to thrive, rather than being put in a position that leaves you powerless and that leaves you dependent on whatever society or job or whatever other authority figure might have on our lives. So who would like to start sharing something about what you're doing right now, which moves you're making in order to make this a beautiful period where success and happiness are being created right now?
Before, like, about the things that you're doing, I also want to like put out there that like you don't have to be doing like everything to move forward in a certain thing. Like, I think coming to terms and accepting we're in a position where we can do, when we can't do as much, and understanding that you don't, just because other people are like, you know, working on projects more, studying, I don't know, studying languages or getting really fit, just because some people are doing that doesn't mean you have to do it. If you're in a place where you're not you don't, I don't know, whatever you're going through, if you're in a place where that's not beneficial for you and you're putting too much pressure on yourself and thinking, I should be doing this because so-and-so is doing this, then you're just going to dig yourself into that state, that not negative, but that detrimental state even more. And you don't want to do that. So I think, one, before we actually talk about the things that we're doing to you know, the things that we're working on, whatever it is, I think it's also important to say that you don't have to be working on anything to make this a better experience for you. And you don't have to come out of the lockdown or the whole situation with having learned a new language, with now being able to do 100 push-ups in a row, or, you know, just anything like that. I think there's a lot of pressure that people put on themselves. And that other people put on other people as well. So I think the first thing to do is just to release that pressure that you have on yourself, and then take the time, and then when you're ready and when you're in a position to, then you can work on those projects.
Yeah, that's very true. It is right, because it's not like there's only one way of being able to thrive right now or hereafter, after lockdown being, you know, released or whatever. It's about being able to find whatever is best for you, and allow this experience not to confine you, or not to put you back from what you experience as happiness. So that's a very good point, because it's very true that you want to find whatever is best for you and whatever allows you to get to your B, whatever A situation you are right now. So thank you so much for adding that.
Okay.
I really agree with that. I think it's really important to remember that success is relative. So we're talking about lockdown success and happiness, right? I agree with you so much, Pierre, that success is relative. And anyone who's been around maybe like some of Yaspierre's programs like FLC or anything like that, you'll have heard me say many times in that space that comparison is the thief of joy, and you should only ever look left and right for inspiration and motivation. The rest of the time, it's tunnel vision. Focus on your own thing. You know, take inspiration from what others are doing, but don't compare yourself or judge yourself by anyone else's standards but your own, right? And you speak about this all the time, Seb, as well, like that happiness isn't the end goal.
Yeah.
The happiness is something that you can have right now. It's available to you wherever you are in the world. Like, just look around, and there is happiness and positivity in your situation, even if maybe you don't see it yet. So I think shifting that perspective as well of like, okay, so I want to be happy when, or I'll be happy if. Like, if that's the mentality that you're going into it with, then you're already losing, right? So looking at it from a different way of, I'm already happy now, and if you're not, then that's okay as well. Like, respect and realize that, and then change to find that happiness, to cultivate that happiness in your life, and then move forward from there, right? Because it's always easier to move forward from that place. So I think that's really important to remember. In terms of lockdown, if I can just shared 2 thoughts. How many thoughts I had, particularly? 2 thoughts. You guys know, you guys are cool. You guys have watched us live before, you know, with geeks like this, and it's a bit weird, it's special, bit unique. But I remember I was actually excited at the first lockdown. Like when I said it was a surprise, I was quite excited personally because I wasn't really thinking about any of the stuff yet. I was just thinking about this is unique, right? This is definitely a once in a lifetime thing for our generation right now, where we're never going to be given this kind of space or opportunity again. And in the midst of chaos does come opportunity if you're ready for it. And you might not be ready for it, and that's okay, right? You're in your own lane, going at your own pace. But if you are, then there's a unique opportunity right now that you can grab. And I remember thinking that was all I was focused about. Like, I'm just determined to make the most of it. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm just going to go in, playful out, and see what happens in terms of, really, I was thinking about my professional life, right? And my business. And then what was interesting was a few months into lockdown, God rest her soul, my nana passed away, right? And then that, what you were saying there, Pierre, really struck me because I remember my focus shifted at that point. And suddenly all the stuff that I thought was important, the success and the financial results and, you know, helping more people, all of that didn't seem to matter anymore. All that mattered was going within and really doing like the soul searching and the deep, you know, personal work, and really having some profound conversations with myself and with my family to have that you know, inner time, and that was the focus, and that was the priority, if that makes sense. And that was from like May until October. How many months that is? If you guys are better at maths than me, maybe you can count, but it was a while, right? But then around October, November time, it started to shift back, you know? So I think like there's very much like a flow to these things, and respecting where you're at and what's your priority right now, I think is very, very important, and not something like I've spoken about enough. And like being flexible with your goals. Like today it might be, okay, I'm gonna work on this, but then life might throw you a curveball, like lockdown or whatever, and then your priorities might have to shift, and that's okay. Like being able to flow through life, I think is really important, and that shouldn't change just because of lockdown, right? From one week to the next, you might have different things that you're working on, but does that make sense? So like you kind of like to go with the flow through it. And I know it's so cheesy to say, like, what does that mean, Seb? But it just means like realize that, you know, life moves. You got to move with it, right?
Yeah.
And different days you'll have different priorities, and that's completely okay. That was like a really big learning for me. Like, I guess being present is one. Yeah, realize what's important today, and just focusing on that, if that makes sense.
I can definitely relate with that, Seb. Seb, it, you know, sorry. The beginning of my lockdown personally, I was still a caregiver and living in a different area, and the lockdown didn't really affect me so much from my job. And then throughout the many months after that, I've changed my job. I've changed my relationship. I've changed where I've lived, just from finding myself for the first time in my entire life and going with that flow that Seb was talking about. And that that to a T is what kept me smiling during such a hard time with the lockdown and personally. It really, there's something very powerful with that when you accept who you are and you grow into that. It's a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know how the lockdown was over there for you guys. There were certain months that were not very strict here in the United States, so you could still go out and about. So that's why it kind of gave like a false reality that it wasn't as serious, maybe, of a thing. And then it progressively got more restricted, and then there was quite a lot of backlash here from what we were talking about, just because I think it was handled differently in the United States than it was, you know, elsewhere. So we had it more fast and furious with the emotions of lockdown for the people. So if anybody can relate, please comment below. Anybody else from the United States or anywhere really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It gives a lot. a lot. It tests our adaptability in a very good way, because obviously in business, what we talk about, this is super important. But in life in general, being adaptable is very important, and not having the expectation that things will be the same. There's this quote by Stephen Marley, and he says, "Nothing's permanent, nothing's permanent in life, all except for change," which obviously is true, because change is a permanent thing happening all the time. And I think one of the things where, especially we are, wanting to contribute towards with this episode, is being able to provide knowledge or inspiration, no matter where you are in your life right now, whether it is that you are experiencing a lockdown as a very difficult period, or whether you are experiencing as the best thing ever. Which there was one comment made by Sven, amazing Sven. I just want to give you a shout out. He said, like, this is the best time ever. I've been working on my own thing and stuff like that. I don't have to, I don't have to, rely on the things how it was in normal. Or whether you are in this situation and you're kind of wondering, what should I do? The hope with this episode is to allow, no matter where you are and no matter what it is that you wish to accomplish, to understand that, as Seb mentioned in the beginning, there's always, our how do you say this? That it's the way how things are depends on how we look at things, depends on what glasses you put on. And no matter what the situation is, we can put on positive glasses, and we can see, how can I turn what I have right now and what has been put on my plate, or whatever storm has been sent my way? How can we turn it around and actually see the positive of it? How can we see all the things that Graham was also talking about, that we can be grateful for it, and we can then allow this situation to make ourselves stronger, whichever way that may be. So when talking about success, or when talking about happiness, there's no one way that we wish to go about it in this conversation. There's a lot of different ways, and everyone has their own way of how they see and feel, whatever it is that you want to accomplish. But to know that no matter what, we always have the power to make life as beautiful as we see it, because our spirit is free. And for the three of you, right, when thinking about the resources that you have available, or the resources that have been more restrained, how has that affected the goals that you guys have set for yourselves? Because maybe it would be nice to go into that. Like, what are the things that you have been, how you have been super resourceful, and that might be helpful to people to think like, oh wow, that's pretty awesome, and that, you can take some inspiration from it.
Yeah,
I'll direct it to the question, Bryan.
So for me personally, so like I was discussing, I completely changed my career path during lockdown. So it very much, at the beginning of lockdown, it was still being set in the same ways. And, maybe there was a little bit of negativity and feeling stuck at the beginning. And then, I realized that if I open my mind up a little more about what it is I really want in life, and pursue that, now I'm in a position where anything is unlimited in what could happen financially, personally, everything really. So I kind of had to reassess my goals in a sense, because the goals I started out having were not who I even am anymore. So
Yeah.
it was a very big awakening. I mean, yeah, I've lost 35 pounds during lockdown, and I didn't have a goal of that going into it. Thank you. But I mean, like, that wasn't even on my radar at the beginning of lockdown. So I don't think anyone really knows how long it's going to be, really. So I don't think any time is wasted. So it's, whatever it is that's going to give you happiness, just take small steps. And like a very wise person once said, the first step is the hardest.
Bryan, is that person by any chance just sat over there from you?
Maybe it's you, my friend.
Oh, me?
Yes, you.
Oh, what did I say?
You said the first step is the hardest. And once you overcome that, it gets
Everybody comment below and say the first step is the hardest, and once you overcome that, what's the next part?
the rest come more easily, I guess.
The rest goes more easily.
Wow, I really thought you were looking to someone like in your room. You're like, oh, got someone stand next to you. They said that.
Nope.
Very kind of you, Bryan. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
It's true, though. It is true. It is very, very true. I think that's important. So I really liked what you said there as well. Like things that like different goals are coming up for you. Like you're redefining what success might look like, or what happiness, like, or what important you. That's being constantly redefined as we move through this, right? And I think that's like what I was really trying to get at before. So I'm really glad you touched on that, because I remember when lockdown started, my goal was like I had my online business. We're doing all right, but a lot of my cash flow was coming from music. I was gigging a lot, singing at weddings and events, and that was a big part of my life, and I loved it. But then as soon as lockdown was announced, it was like, bye money, see you later. Like, a big source of my cash flow. And I was like, okay. So now I'm being like forced to make change, right? And I was open to that, and obviously maybe people will be at different stages, like how willing they are to adapt, right? But that flexibility is really, really important to cultivate. Yoga helps, right? I can talk about that, but it's true. Flexible in mind, body, and spirit really is. And yoga's become a big part of my routine as well. So very thankful to lockdown for introducing that, because no more gyms, right? But from a financial point of view, like it really did like help me shift and reprioritize and be like, okay, maybe this is the time to like actually go all in on this, in my online business, rather than focusing on music so much. And a year in, haven't had a single gig, and online business is thriving, man. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. I tell you, who indeed, but like that wasn't as much of a priority, because I was comfortable doing what I was doing previously. So do you know what I mean? So like it would have been very easy to go into that situation and have it the other way and been like resisting and not have moved through it. So I'm glad that I had enough kind of mental preparation to be like open-mindedness, to be like, look for the positives, right? And because it's easy to say that, isn't it? Oh, everything happens for a reason, and we look for the positives in every situation. And sometimes you can't always see them till afterwards. But sometimes they're there right in front of you if you put those glasses on, and just look for them and go, okay, let's see.
Yeah, nice. How about you, Pierre?
Yeah, I was just thinking when Seb mentioned like you were doing like loads of music and loads of gigging, and then it was like bye money. And I completely felt that, because like I had quit my job and I'd been going freelance, like teaching yoga for about, I don't know, 9 months or something like that, and my income was like starting to get back to pretty much like what I had in my previous job, like not quite there, but I was well on my way. And then I just, from that to absolutely nothing, and made me realize that, okay, well, one, I need some more options, some other streams of income. But then, and I think Vina mentioned in the comments, won't read the whole comment, but essentially about acceptance. And I think acceptance is the thing I kind of want to touch on here, in the accepting what's happening is key to the happiness, key to your happiness, and knowing that you can't change what's happening around you at all. The only thing you can change is how you respond to it. And I think it was touched on earlier. And instead of, dwelling on the fact that I lost like all my income from the yoga, well, one, I started teaching yoga online and stuff. And although I was quite reluctant to at the beginning, and it was like a bit of a, it wasn't easy. I didn't like going like live or doing things online and putting myself out there like that before. And now I'm doing this like in front of loads of people. So that was pretty cool.
I was just going to say,
then,
the irony. Look at you now.
I know, I know, right? And then started doing other things. Like I had been teaching languages a little bit before, but I started teaching it a lot more. So it's just it was a perfect time to try new things that I haven't had the opportunity to before. So if it's something like I suggest to people, like if there's something that they've been playing around with the idea of, then why not go for it now? If it's something you can do in more spare time that you have, then go for it. So yeah, I think it's kind of been a bit of a redirect, like makes you reevaluate what works, what doesn't, whether what you were doing before was how you wanted to carry on. And it made me realize, like, although, I love teaching yoga, I love the yoga practice itself, but the way I was teaching it in terms of running around loads of different studios around London, constantly teaching to like big classes wasn't the exact way I like to do it. I like to do it more kind of intimate setting, in small groups or like one-to-one kind of thing. So it just, this whole lockdown has like had me reevaluate how I was doing things before. And another thing is patience. I'm very impatient. And
Are you?
I want results now. And like things that I had like going on and things like that. Like I was applying for my British citizenship, which I finally got last month. But that took like so long, and like, yes, who, and I was doing everything I could, but then it came to a point where I was like, well, I can't do anything else about it now. It's like, it's not in my hands. And as soon as you come to relinquish the control, just completely let go and realize that, okay, I've done what I can, and just let the universe take care of the rest, or whatever it is, or God take care of the rest, or whoever, whatever you believe in, take care of the rest, then I think you're opening yourself up to all the possibilities, which is nice. And a lot, like, you can let go of a lot of stress then when you realize that you don't have to do everything.
Let it go, let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I found really funny about, kind of semi-funny about the whole lockdown situation is that when obviously it started, then we were running the Well Yogi program, and sometimes going back and forth with the taxi. And I remember having conversations with the taxi driver saying that, yeah, lockdown's happening, a lot has changed, huh? I was like, for me, not so much. I'm still doing all my stuff from home as usual and all that stuff. So, and also like having an online business, nothing really changed that much, except for the fact that one thing that I don't know if you guys have experienced that also, but just seeing other people undergoing the more negative effects of lockdown in obviously the area of finances that Pierre and Seb talked about it, and Bryan as well, that not having that insecurity about not knowing where the next pot of money comes from, or whether you have a job even, or whether you maybe you have your salary the way it used to be, or not knowing whether you are able at all to have certain things that you need to be able to provide for your family, for your loved ones. That's like one area, like the finances. Then another area being the mental part that we spoke about earlier on, that we are kind of deprived from our normal human connection, and we have the social distance, which is not so social at all. All that type of stuff. And like emotional, how it has affected like all these different things, and seeing that in people has personally really, really been a huge motivator in me to feel like, okay, come on, people, we need everybody to wake up. And there's another way. There's so many things that we can do. and you guys have all been sharing it so beautifully, is that as long as we understand and have compassion for ourselves, like wherever we are and whatever we're dealing with, and knowing that it's okay, but also understand that we have the power to shift our perspective. So whoever again is watching this, as our beautiful hosts have all been saying, like we have the ability to adapt. We have the ability to look at things from a more happy perspective. We have this unique situation, as Seb talked about, that we probably never get ever. There was times where we were like thinking like, oh, I wish these were different, and boom, now they're different, and they're very different. And allow it to see, like what Pierre mentioned, that there are so many other opportunities in different ways or different things that we might do. But I think for me, and I want to know like what you guys' opinions are on that, is I personally get so passionate about wanting people to know that that they have the power and they have the everything within them to be able to make anything happen. Basically that. And I want you guys to comment below. Comment below and say, I have everything within me to make anything happen. So whether that is that you want to learn a new instrument, or whether that is that you want to find a different source of income, or whether it is that you want to find more balance within yourself and not pressure yourself so much, but be able to take this time to rebalance, as personally I've been experiencing a little bit much, then you can and you should. And understand that, as again these gentlemen have mentioned before, it's not an outer source that can tell us like what to do or what not to do, or anybody controlling us, even though yes, certain things have have changed and therefore are different. We still have ourselves, our spirit, our mind. We can still think and we can still take action upon certain things, whether it is the most simple action to just let it go, as Pierre said it just before. So what is your take on it? Because yeah, it's just people's well-being in all these areas mentioned. Like they okay, you guys can talk.
I completely agree. I totally hear you, and I feel like space has been cultivated for us all. Like the one thing that we do all have in common throughout lockdown is that we've been given more time with ourselves, even if that's with your family sat next to you on the sofa. But we've all been given a lot more time with ourselves, and I think like that's
Sorry, did you just say you sit next to yourself on the sofa?
I said with your family, but maybe with yourself. Like I live alone, so I've definitely been, with myself. And hey, like introverts have a lockdown or what? Side note, like the introvert in me is like, oh, this can stay. This is so nice. But at some point we do need some human contact, and the person at Tesco doesn't always want to do that, right? But it has been a very nice reset to like you say, to rebalance, to reprioritize, to refocus, to reevaluate. And to really have those conversations with yourself, because all of this that we're talking about, like having that like mental shift in capability and strength, and like realizing that your spirit is strong enough to grow through this process, right? That will only ever happen with the conversations that you have with yourself, right? You can have conversations with us, listening to what we say, listening to what other people say, or different podcasts or YouTube videos, whatever it might be, reading a book. But really, I don't know if you guys would agree, but for me, it always comes down to the narrative that I have with myself. Like in my own head. Like I speak to myself a lot and I go, self, like what we thinking today, like, and actively have those conversations and to have an honest conversation, right? And ask yourself better questions. And I feel like what I'm trying to get is that I've really been gifted space to learn who I am and like who I want to be. Like one of my friends always says, decide who I be. And it's like terrible English, right? But it makes so much, like it gets me, like who I be. Like ask yourself that question every day, who I be, like who are you, right? But it's like in normal pre-lockdown world, like there was so much going on, like you don't have the time or the space or the energy to like give that a priority. But that's really like so important, so important. So to be gifted that, and to like, yeah, okay, like it sucks, to have less contact with people and all the rest of it, and like if you do live alone, like yeah, it's hard, right? Like, but that, like, make the most of it, right? Make the most of the opportunity to really, I feel like I've been given the opportunity to really understand myself and get to know myself, if that makes sense. And that is such a blessing. Like, I feel so much more like Seb March 2021 than I did March 2020. I look back and I'm like, who was that guy? Like, what was he doing? What path was he on? Like, he was all over the place. Like, there's a bit more sense of self. I don't know if that touches on what you were talking about, Chip, but everything you were saying just made me think of that. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah. I think
everything's already here.
Everybody comment that below and say, who I be?
Who I be?
Who I be? Yeah.
Who I be?
Nice.
And just decide, like, and then just show up like that. Like, it's just a decision, and that can be made in an instant. And yeah, okay, it might be difficult. Like, you know, for me, who I be wanted to be someone who got up early, read books, did yoga, you know, had a kick-ass online business, all the rest of it, like all these different things. I really figured out because I was able to balance and prioritize and evaluate and all the rest of it. Figure out like how I want my life to look and really design that from a place of intention, right?
Yeah.
Personally and professionally, in every sense of the word. And then just decide to show up like that, right? Like, okay, we'll just set the alarm, wake up, get the yoga mat out, right? Just do it. Like, it's just a decision. And it's really, even now in lockdown, I think it's easier than ever to step into who I be than it ever was before. But personally, I really believe that.
That's wonderful. That's very beautiful. And to really connect with that future version of yourself and understand that, yeah, it is like who you are or who you be. Like who you is.
Who I be. Who I be.
Who is you?
Who is you?
All right. How about y'all? Whoever wants to talk.
Brian, I forgot what I was going to say.
I always feel like I'm talking
to
to people, so I was just gonna let it ride and let it flow, like we were talking about.
That's why we're imperfectly beautiful.
Exactly.
Oh, can you guys do that also for a second? Yeah, this should be the thumbnail of this video. Thank you.
I pictured the Grinch. I don't know why. Like,
oh yeah.
So going with what everyone's talking about, I mean, for me, the lockdown, you know, like I was saying at the beginning, it didn't really affect me too much because I was still considered essential. So I was working. But when that changed, it really, you know, I looked inside and I made a decision. Well, not even a decision, an aha moment. If you know, you know. And and it made me realize that if we can all agree that change is, you know, one of the only constants in life other than us, you know, leaving here at some point, that why am I getting used to only creating a change when it's forced upon me, or, you know, just waiting too long? We all have this vision of ourselves and how we look at our life. And a lot of times you make, you know, a compromise here, a compromise there, and then you're so far away from what it was that you were dreaming of and wanted in general, that it really made me realize that just look at the planet. We'll start there. She's coming back around to her natural self when we're taken out of the equation. So I couldn't help but equate that to myself. I might not have as much hair as her, but you know, why did I get so far off track? And I don't want to have to wait to go back to who I really am with being forced to. So I tried to create as much freedom in myself as, you know, the restrictions would allow.
I love that. That's very beautiful, and also very relatable in the sense that we all have our dreams and stuff and things that we wish to realize, but we also all are masters of procrastination or masters of being distracted, or life getting in the way, and you know, getting into the hamster wheel or something like that, whatever wheel, and then we forget about that. And then once we wake up and be like, oh, wait a second, I wanted that, but right now it's like totally different from that. So I really think this is a very important point for everyone, again, to have at least that question. Ask yourself that question, and especially right now, all the difficulties aside, we do have that time and space where we can actually ask, like Seb says, who I be, and to do something about it, and to ask Bryan, like this guy, OMG, he just into from Bryan to Super Bryan, and it's like it's so wonderful, and something can happen in such a short space of time. It's beautiful, super beautiful, and everyone can do this. So comment below and say, I can do this too. Yes, Pierre, you are in.
No, I just really 100% agree with what you were all just saying, and that like I'm so different in myself now in March 21 to how I was back in, I think, well, yeah, to quote Seb, the same now, different now than I was back in March last year. And it's a mixture of different things. It's a mixture of like having had the time to myself, having also had the guidance from my teachers, my mentors, and all like that, but also massively the community that we're all a part of. And that's one of the things I'm like the most grateful for, is like you guys and everyone in this community that have like sparked this shift that I've experienced. And for anyone wanting to make the change, not only realizing that you can make the change at any time, but also a way to make it easier is to do it with people that have already made the change, or that are in the process of doing it, or have the same kind of attitude and mindset of the person you want to be, and things like that. So putting yourself in the shoes of your future self, and just, yeah, so your environment creates you essentially. And so if you're always surrounded by people talking in a negative way, especially in the whole lockdown situation, and I myself, like I keep aware, like I keep I know what's kind of going on, but I don't really watch the news ever, because it's like I find it so toxic.
What do you see? News? What is that?
The news. Are you joking?
Yes.
I get it. I'm a bit slow. Yeah, no, I just like, and just because I find it so negative and so like draining, that I didn't want that to be a part of like kind of what I'm feeding my energy into, or allowing to affect my energy. But having you guys and everyone else in the FLC community and the I Am Creator community and everything that kind of like surrounds that, has been like a catalyst for all the change that I've experienced, and I just couldn't be more grateful. So to anyone who is like struggling with anything as well, I highly recommend surrounding yourself as much as you can with people who will support you. And if you're not a part of this community and you're seeing this for the first time, like reach out to us individually, and we'll be like absolutely more than happy to like welcome you in. And yeah, don't scare them off, guys. You're doing some creepy faces there. But no, essentially, yeah, it's that. As I think I've met some like, and I've like only met Seb and Shabari once in person. Bryan, unfortunately, we've never met yet, but it's to come. Yeah, but yeah, there's this connection, and you know, I don't really have the words to say it, but like your surroundings, your environment really dictate where you go on your path.
That's true.
So yeah, having that support system of people is massively important. So know that you don't have to do it alone, and because I know some people feel that like they might be a burden if they reach out to people.
Oh yeah.
Don't like. I know. Saying that you won't isn't going to change how you feel about it. and I understand that, but even just opening up a little bit, having the courage to open up and share that vulnerability, it just takes great strength, but also it invites other people to share their vulnerabilities and what they're going through as well. And the more I've opened up to people, the more I've had other people come to me sharing things that have been troubling them, that they've been going through, and whether I could help or not, or whether I was just listening, it's just been a positive experience for them, because they were able to what's the word? Get things out, basically. I forgot the word. Exteriorize, I think that's the word. That might be from French. I don't know.
But okay.
It's from French. It's fine. I'll just throw in some French words. Yeah, being able to get it out. Out of context, that sounds weird. Ignore my mind.
Oh, we got you, bro. We got you.
Oh, you got me. You got what I mean. But yeah. Essentially, you're not going to be a burden if you need to express things. And we're here for you in this community. If you do need to talk, whether you know us well or whether you don't, we'll always be a very supportive group for anyone that wants to connect.
Beautiful words, Pierre. Boom. So true.
There's one thing I was thinking about. Oh yeah, yesterday. Was it yesterday? No, 2 days ago. Aggie said the same thing about that. Sometimes it feels like it's a burden to knock on someone's door, to say something, or even ask for help, or even just being able to talk and stuff like that, what you're just talking about. And then within how many days? 3-4 days, she did her lives, and she's been so beautifully supportive as well to so many people. But in like 4 days, she's managed to fundraise 29,000, and that just shows again, who the power of people and the goodness in people. That sometimes I think as well we forget, or it is easy to forget because of the negatives. But yeah, people are very nice. People are nice. People are kind. The essence in all of us is well, in my opinion at least, goodness, and wanting love, and wanting to love and to help and support and to care and stuff like that. And so yeah, don't be thinking at all that even though we're socially distanced, that you're actually socially distanced, because you can reach out to anyone, and you'll probably find more people willing to help than you would expect, which I think is a very beautiful thing. And yeah, I totally resonate with what we just said. And also just want to quickly say, FLC family rocks.
FLC family is the best, Dude, we might be biased. For those of you who don't know what FLC is, where have you been?
Well, we've been in lockdown, No, just kidding.
Plenty of time to learn about FLC. It's been a whole year. What have you been doing? On that note, though, a really beautiful point, and something that, I know I joked earlier, about self-talk, and I go self, but it's people know, who know me, know that I journal a lot, every day, a lot, and it's really just getting what's in here out, right? And sometimes, I think, sometimes the first step for people, if they don't feel comfortable going to themselves, they're not really comfortable with themselves yet. So what I often do as a stepping stone for myself is just get real with myself, right? Get honest with myself about where I am and what I'm feeling, the good and the bad, right? It works for both. So I do a lot of journaling and just unfiltered, what am I thinking? How am I feeling? And just in that process of getting it out of your own head, and even reading it back to yourself, or just reading what you've wrote. English I struggle. It's my only language. I struggle with it. I don't know. So just that process of getting out of your head onto paper, whether you speak the words aloud or not, is super therapeutic, because it helps you have that disconnect, right, in a really beautiful way. It gives you that bigger picture, And it helps you realize that you are not your thoughts. Like you have thoughts, right? And then you can really evaluate them and go, was I really thinking that? That's so silly. And then like sometimes that can be enough to be like, you can genuinely move past stuff like that, or you can even like celebrate stuff like that as well. And it's good to write those good things down as well. Like don't use it just in a bad way, but use it in a good way too, right? If you're going to do this, because then you can celebrate and document all those beautiful wins that you're having, and it's like the ultimate gratitude thing, right, as well. But then sometimes you might write something down and be like, you look at it, but then like it's not like you're just dealing with it alone anymore, and that can be like a beautiful stepping stone. I do this a lot to then like go and actually speak to a friend about something, you know what I mean? And it's like helps you bridge that gap from being like, well, I don't feel comfortable, speaking to somebody else about it yet, but if I can at least speak with myself about it and write it down and get it out of my own head, it's like moving in that direction. And if you can do that, then you can start to build up the courage and speak to somebody else if that's what you feel you need to do. And it always makes, it never ceases to make me laugh, because sometimes I write stuff down and I'm like, Seb, what are you doing, bro? Like, it's so silly. And it just helps you move through things. Like you don't hold on to things, that you don't need to, and it creates that space to allow the things in that actually serve you and that give you purpose and drive you forward with intention.
That's so true.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who are listening to this and are maybe not like the most fond of writing, I do this by talking to Faith and Simba. So I speak to them and we're having conversations. So everything I speak out loud and say, guys, what do you guys think about this? And then they're like, woof. And I'm like, yeah, I think so too.
Another thing to do is if you don't want to
work.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say another thing to do is like if you don't want to write things down, another thing is just voice note yourself speaking everything out loud. And when you listen to it back, it's quite nice because it's kind of creating a distance between your thoughts and yourself, and which is what Seb was saying, that you're not your thoughts. And it's also as if kind of like a friend is saying those things to you, and you kind of imagine your voice as your friend, and if the things that your friend or your voice is saying to you isn't serving you, then you wouldn't be friends with that person. So you kind of essentially you exactly. And if that's you, then the good thing is you've got the power to change your self-talk. And I think that's like really, really powerful, is being able to just like speak to yourself like that.
Also, actually, saying that whenever you are voice recording, there's an extra maybe dimension to it, because you can also hear the tone, your own tone.
Yeah.
So let's say if you're listening back to it and then you can see, oh wow, this one was really filled with emotion or something, or this one's super happy, or you kind of get that dimension from it too.
We can take it to another level, and you can video yourself, because you get the audio and the visual and the word.
Hey.
And you get the body language.
And you can even dress up as someone else saying it to you. Does anyone know who this is?
No idea.
I don't know if you do know. But if you don't want to take it to the next level, then you can go live and talk to people about it, and then it connects you to people again, which actually is pretty beautiful. Because it's kind of the same thing. If I look back at my lives, then I can actually see like, oh wow, these are the things that, even though like it may not be speaking about it, but then just seeing like what's going on and stuff like that can kind of get back into that mood and what's going on and stuff like that. Plus, it's good for your visibility in case you want to build a business. Yeah,
best way to go live every day.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think like the most important thing that you guys have shared and we all have shared is to, first of all, for everyone to understand that things will always change. So maybe right now we're in lockdown, and next time we are in mockdown, and then we are in clockdown because our clocks go down or whatever. And things like there will always be situations presented to us. But as long as we realize that we must be adaptable and that we are so strong, like we're stronger than we think. We don't even know like what our brains are capable of. We don't even know what our spirits are capable of. We don't even know what our bodies are capable of. We're just like very unaware of our own potential. And when we do have that awareness, then we also know that we have the ability to allow any situation to be bent into something beautiful, and for us to find happiness and success in the moment, and allow the compilation or the adding like
Oh
accumulation of happiness and successes in the nows to make a beautiful who I be.
Who I be.
Yeah, and that we are able to redefine ourselves at any moment. And this opportunity of lockdown, take it as an opportunity and allow us to be solution focused. Reach out to people whenever you need to, because even though we might not be as free physically right now, we still have the opportunity to connect. And yes, like Fina says, be like water, my friends. So we are all like water, then everything is going to be okay. So what would be the final tips of all of you to share with our audience? This was my tip.
Detachment from expectations of how things should go. Just like have no expectations. Move towards what you want to do, or stay still if that's the place where you are and you need to stay still and rest. But let go of the expectations of what you think should happen. Yeah.
Cool. Make sure to write that down. Comment below. Detachment of expectations. Nice. Bryan.
So first and foremost, everyone give yourself a big bear hug. Love yourself.
I thought you was about to say give yourself a slap.
No.
Sometimes you need a slap from yourself. Sometimes it's a real thing. Tough love.
Piece of advice would be to be your own biggest supporter, not your own biggest critic. I think you have to understand that. Be in your own corner, because everyone else is going to root against you. And, I don't even try not to even think about that, but at least build yourself up and into what it is that you want to be and what makes you happy.
Yeah. Beautiful. I've already comment below. Be in your own corner. 100%. I completely
love that.
agree with that. And Mr. Williams, what would you say?
It's got to be the famous 3 words, right? How many words? 3 words. Who I be.
Who I be, man. Hashtag who I be. Comment below.
Who I be.
Who I be. Nice.
Who I be.
Very
I think that was a Nas song. I know. I want to be what I want to be. If I work hard at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that song. It's so cool. I know I can. Comment below. I know I can. And you guys go, I know I can. And be what I want to work for them.
Be who I be.
And who I be. Okay. We went from singing and we ended in singing. Thank you guys so much for another wonderful get together on episode number 2 of Imperfectly Beautiful, of how to lock down success and happiness during lockdown. And we ended up talking about way more things. But it's been very beautiful. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to Seb. Thank you to Bryan. Thank you to Pierre. And most of all, thank you to our amazing audience for vibing with us. And we are very much looking forward to see you guys on the next one. And that's going to happen in 2 weeks' time. But before we close off, I just want to say, if you guys have enjoyed today's episode, or you know anyone who has been struggling with lockdown, or who can just be positively inspired by this video, then please feel very free to hit the share button or to tag someone below, because our goal is to inspire people and to just add a little bit of our own craziness to the mix in order to allow everybody to understand that no matter what the situation is, no matter how you are, no matter how you feel yourself, you are imperfectly beautiful. And what's the other version again? Imperfectly. I am perfectly beautiful. Yay! So comment below and say, I'm perfectly beautiful, because you so are. And on that note, let's say goodbye to our amazing audience, and we catch you guys in 2 weeks' time. Bye. See ya.